Alright, hello folks. A few videos back I rebuilt this engine. This is the FS86, the steel FS86 weed whacker engine. And I got rid of the weed eater part, but I kept the engine, and I mentioned at the end of the video that a cool idea would be to make this, to kind of make a custom prop RC car out of this engine. And I've been giving it a lot of thought, and I think it is a pretty interesting idea. It does surpass my skill set though, that's for sure. But in this video we're going to be focusing on trying to get a way to mount an actual propeller on here, because for a prop car you need a propeller. And I've been doing a lot of research to try to find the right size propeller for this, and it's probably going to need to be pretty big. But basically you have these two clutch bolts, and all propellers have a center mount, a hole in the center, so you can't just bolt it onto these. So I'm going to have to make an adapter plate, and I found this piece of steel laying around that actually perfectly fits these holes. And so I'm going to cut this and make it in such a way, and then drill a hole in the center so it can be an adapter. Alright, so I have a line marked on here in pencil. It's kind of hard to see, but you want to get an equal distance on either side of the bolt holes, otherwise it'll be imbalanced. And at 8,000 RPM or whatever this thing's turning, you don't really want an imbalance, even if it's a small one. So I actually got this nice bench vise here for my birthday, so that's nice. I can put it to use now. And I'm going to cut it out, I think with a hacksaw, because that's probably the most precise way I have of cutting it out. So unfortunately my cut was not perfectly straight, but that's okay because I can take it over to the bench grinder and clean it up a little bit. Now, I actually want this to be 2 layers thick, I think, so I'm going to take this piece, mark it again, and cut another one on the other side. Alright, so I couldn't get those parts perfectly cut out, so now I'm going to touch them up on the bench grinder. Alright, well, they're not perfect, but they're pretty good. I think this should work out. So you can see, here's how it's going to look. And the basic idea is you drill a hole in the center. The only thing is that hole has to be perfectly in the center, and there is some slop in this. And if you're off, that's going to cause a lot of vibration, even just by that much. So that is a bit of a tricky thing. Alright, well, I'm going to hold off on drilling the hole in the center until I get the propellers, so I know what size hole I need and what size bolts I need to put in there. And then we'll do some bench testing and see how much thrust we can get out of this thing. Alright folks, it's been a while since you've seen it last, and you're probably wondering why on earth I have this engine bolted down to a lawnmower deck. Well, it's for a test rig. So I need to fit a propeller to this engine, but I don't know what size propeller to get because there's no documentation on what size propeller this engine would run because it's a weed eater engine. It's not meant to run a propeller. And so I can estimate, but I'll have to try different size propellers to get the right sized one, unfortunately, meaning I have to buy multiple ones and potentially send them back and stuff. But to test out the propellers, I just bolted this down to this lawnmower frame here, and you can see it doesn't take a whole lot of force to move it, and so the propeller will be blowing air backward like this. And I bought several different size propellers, and we'll be mounting them to this thingy-mabob that I made earlier. It's going to be pretty janky, probably not a very good permanent setup, but it should allow us to test out propellers and figure out what kind of size we need. So the first one we're going to be testing is this 12 inch by 6, and so the 12 is the diameter, 12 inches, and then the 6 refers to how far forward the propeller moves with a rotation, so that refers to the prop pitch. And so it's not a super aggressive prop pitch, but it's pretty small. I think this propeller is going to be too small. I bought one size bigger and then one size even smaller than this, and that one's definitely going to be too small. The challenge is I've got to get the hole in the center of this piece right here perfectly centered, because if it's not, this propeller is going to be unbalanced. So it's going to be a challenge to get that perfectly centered, but I have an idea of how to get it as close as possible. So I'm going to run this engine, and while it's running, I'm going to put a marker as close to center as I can get it, and that should put a mark that's a circular circle drawn on the metal, and that should be where a center is, in the center of that circle. And so this way I can get the center of the rotating assembly. Now of course it's going to be vibrating, which will mess with the data, so I'm going to have Anthony sit on here to help stop it from vibrating as much. I know this looks all super janky, and that's because it is. It's temporary, folks. It's very temporary. This is for testing purposes only. And don't worry about the throttle, it can be at an idle. We got a perfect circle. That worked out pretty well. You can see we got, you can see we got a perfect circle right in the center of that piece, and it is pretty wide, so I'll have to measure in the very center of that circle, but that is the center of rotation. So if we drill there, it will be perfectly centered, hopefully. I'm using this homemade center punch to put a detent in the middle of the metal so the drill bit doesn't wander. let's see if we can't get drilling here. Yep, perfect. I'm just gonna blast this off some brake clean so it's not all greasy. Okay, so there's our hole, and unfortunately I think I did get slightly off. Just slightly. Hopefully not enough to cause issues, but Alright, so now that we have the spacing set, we can now try on our propeller. Actually, pull it over and see if this thing is like, if it is, I'll be so upset.
How fast?
Dude, it is. It's going around. That's terrible. So it is probably going to be somewhat unbalanced, unfortunately. So these are reverse pusher propellers, but if I put it on like this, it's going to blow. It's going to be spinning the wrong way. So you actually put it on like this, and it is a tight fit, so it actually will thread itself on. Now I need to put a collar in there actually, that's the right size for that. Oh, see. So now you can see, I'm going to make sure that switch is off when it's starting. Oh dude, it already blows air. Just from me pulling it over, it's gusting me.
Wait, I want to feel it. Pull it over. Please pull it. I mean, obviously. Yep. You get gusty.
I think we're going to create some thrust.
That's
But
the medium size?
that is the medium size. And we still got the big one. Okay, so this is just about the most ghetto rig I've ever seen in my life. But we have the ropes going around the propeller and coming down to a fish scale, which we have tied to a lawnmower. And this is not nearly as sensitive as I'd like it to be, but it should be able to give us an indication of how much thrust each propeller is producing. And of course, this rig does take a certain amount of force to move, so I'll have to subtract that, or add that to the amount of thrust. And then here we have a tachometer, so I'll be able to see what kind of RPMs we're getting. It turns out these engines are actually good to up to 11,000 RPM. But mine might be getting a little bit more because we did a little intake work on it, just a tiny bit, aka just drilling out the air filter cover a little bit, and then a little exhaust work, boring a hole straight into the muffler. So yeah, free up a little bit extra horsepower. Definitely gonna want that on there. And so yes, this is gonna be kind of dangerous. If anything does blow up, if the propeller for some reason blows up, all the shrapnel will go radially out. And Anthony's gonna be over here looking at the gauge. We're gonna both be having safety glasses, and I'm gonna be back here operating the throttle and looking at the tachometer. So it shouldn't hurt either of us. And yeah, I think we're ready to test. I'm gonna pray real quick. Dear Lord, please help this test to go safely and nothing to get hurt or damaged. Thank you in Jesus' name, amen. All right, I think we're ready to go. This is terrifying. Oh no, the choke controls. I do not want to mess with that because the blade's right here. Here, I'm just gonna
leave it off choke.
I'm just gonna leave it off choke until it starts. Okay, I think we're running out of gas. It's bogging. I didn't put much gas in the tank, so I'm just gonna put more gas in the tank because when I was giving it gas, it was bogging. It also might need tuning, so that's another thing. Now that we actually can put some load on this engine, I can tune it up better. When I started giving it some gas, did it pull any?
Yeah.
What kind of force?
You up to like a pound.
Okay, a pound. That's something. That's more thrust than a leaf blower already, I think. Or maybe about like a leaf blower. I'm still tight. All right, ready? All right, here we go. Test number 2. Test number 1 was we had running issues.
Solid 5 pounds.
A solid 5 pounds, I hear. That is awesome. Dude, it was at 9 grand at full throttle. I think that's pretty good, actually. 9 grand is like right in the power band. I think we might have first try picked the perfect propeller for this. I don't know. But yeah, dude, 5 pounds of thrust. That doesn't sound like much at all, but you have to imagine, that's like, imagine placing a 5-pound dumbbell on the side of the mower if it was vertical. That would get it moving pretty good. And maybe I'll try untethering it and see if it can move this thing along the ground. Maybe. But first, a little bit more testing. I'm gonna tune it a little bit and see if I can get it. That was pretty good. So it was running lean, which is why I was bogging. So I just tuned it, gave it more fuel, and that fixed it.
So was that full throttle or what?
That was full throttle. I was pegging it there. Yeah.
Certainly not over revving.
Did it feel like a nice little breeze? Did it feel like more than a leaf blower?
Oh yeah.
Dude, this thing's awesome. I can't get over that. All right, well, I'm surprised this test rig worked. We didn't die. That's nice. All right, well, I'm gonna test again and try tuning it a little bit more. And since you probably don't want to see the same old boring view, so we'll give you a little action shot here, right down the throat of it. All right, cranking.
The rope looks like it's about to snap, but I assure you I wrapped some small twine around it several times to reinforce the whole rope.
Is what RPM, 9,700 RPM that time. I leaned it out just a tiny bit more, and yeah, it's scary. It's moving a lot of air. How much thrust on that last pull?
5 pounds.
Still 5 pounds?
About, yeah.
Do you want to give it a run on the throttle?
Yeah, I guess, and you can look at the scale.
Yeah, and I'll read the gauge. I want to feel the wind, dude. Yeah, I saw about 5.5 pounds at the highest. Oh, I see smoke. Is that just from the muffler?
Yeah, looks like it's coming from the muffler.
I wish we had a cylinder head temp, because this poor thing's probably getting pretty hot.
We don't want to be in here.
We don't exactly want our kitty in here. That wouldn't be good. Alright, so we got the biggest propeller on there, which is a 14-inch. The last one we did was a 12-inch, and it worked good. So I'm expecting that this one's going to bog the engine down a little bit too much. It's also a steeper prop pitch at 7 inches. Uh-oh. Gnocchi came back in. I don't think she's going to run towards this. I think she's going to run away, but she might run into like the corner of the garage and be scared. I don't know. But the only thing that's slightly concerning is now that we have the bigger propeller, it is closer to our ropes. So we're just going to have to make sure that stay tension on those so they don't get slack and go into the propeller. And yeah, I think with that, we're ready to test this new propeller. And okay, I'm going to put my safety glasses on because this is a new propeller. Alright, going hot. Oh wait, we need to keep tension on this. Very important. Whoa. Our idle might be needing a little tuning, actually. I don't know, I'll put a little bit more fuel in at an idle and see how it likes that. 84.
Yeah, okay.
So definitely a drop in RPM. How was our thrust?
We're like 7.
7 pounds.
Or no. I guess it was. Yeah. It was like 6.5. All that on.
So you can hear the propeller with this one. It's a little louder. It's creating a little more thrust. A little bit more thrust. Maybe Anthony said about 6.5 pounds, whereas the other one was about 5 to 5.5, depending on how lean we ran it. And this one, about 6.5. So a little bit of a thrust increase at the expense of RPM. So we dropped to, what was it? 840, 8,400 RPM, which is rather low, but not terrible. So I'm thinking that the ideal propeller is probably either the 12-inch that we have, or maybe slightly bigger, like a 13-inch, which would be in between, with the less aggressive prop pitch. So it's just a little bit more than the 12-inch, but not too much more. And then we'd probably see a thrust that was even greater than this one. But we've done some good tests. We've got some good data. Our cheap little fish scale did the job, albeit I'd like to have a more sensitive one that's digital, but it worked. And we did take it outside just a little bit to see how well it pushed the cart, and it moves it a little bit. It doesn't do too bad. I kind of want to hear it without headphones on. See how loud it is.
I'm gonna take mine off too, since we're doing that.
Alright.
It's cold.
I'm going to check the tension on the bolt just to make sure we're good and tight. Yes, sir. Haven't loosened up a bit. Alright. There it goes.
For this run, I didn't turn the volume down, so you can hear how loud this thing actually is.
Well, okay. The phone right there.
Alrighty then. Yeah, this makes some thrust. So yeah, I'm definitely thinking around the 13-inch propeller would be the perfect propeller for this. Although either one of those two, the 12 or the 14, work pretty good. They both produce over 5 pounds of thrust at full throttle. So yeah, thank you for watching. This is part 1 of hopefully multiple parts on this Weed Whacker engine propeller powered RC car. I hope you enjoy, and I will see you next time.
Yeah, exercise.
Doggy, baby, what a cuties.
Oh, wow.
They're a good milky.
Okay, there she goes.